The climate of right thinking has nothing to do with pre-established formula. Yet it would be a negation of right thinking to imagine that it could flourish in an atmosphere of indiscipline or mere spontaneity. Without methodological rigor, there can be no right thinking. As a teacher with critical acumen, I did not cease to be a responsible adventurer, disposed to accept change and difference. Nothing of what I experienced as a teacher needs to be repeated. However, I hold that my own unity and identity in regard to others and to the world constitutes my essential and irrepeatable way of experiencing myself as a cultural, historical, and unfinished being in the world, simultaneously conscious of my unfinishedness. And here we have arrived at the point from which perhaps we should have departed. The unfinishedness of our being. In fact, this unfinishedness is essential to our human condition. Whenever there is life, there is unfinishedness. Though only among women and men is it possible to speak of an awareness of unfinishedness, the invention of our existence developed through our interaction with the material world at our disposal, creating a life support in which life, the life of women and men, became sustainable. Within this life support, our life, human life, takes on a specific qualitative difference in relation to animal life. Animals, for example, operate in given dimensions of space, confined in some cases, unrestricted in others, in which they develop effective boundaries necessary for their survival, growth, and development. It's the space where they trained and skilled learn the skills of hunting, attacking, and self-defense in a period of time much shorter than human learners do. The greater the gap, culturally speaking, the greater the time of learning of infancy. The non-human animal in the infrastructural support system do not have a conceptual language, that is, the capacity to grasp consciously the implication that belonging to an infrastructure would inevitably endow them with the capacity to communicate a certain awe in the face of life itself, in the face of its mystery. In this sense, their behavior, within the context of the spatio-temporal infrastructure, is explicable in reference to the species to which individual animals belong, rather than in reference to the individual itself. That is, the individual does not have the freedom to opt. For this reason, we cannot speak of ethical questions in regard to elephants, for example. This basic life infrastructure or life support system did not require or imply the use of language, or the erect posture that would free the hands, the two things that in fact would make possible the emergence of Homo sapien. The more the hands and the brain engaged in a sort of pact of solidarity, the more the support system became world, life, existence. In other words, as the human body became aware of the capacity of capture, learn, transform, and to create beauty, it ceased to be simply empty space to be filled in with contents. The invention of existence necessarily involves the emergence of language, culture, and communication at levels of complexity much greater than that which obtains the level of survival, self-defense, and self-preservation. What makes men and women ethical is their capacity to spiritualize the world, to make it either beautiful or ugly, their capacity to intervene, to compare, to judge, to decide, to choose, to desist makes them capable of acts of greatness, of dignity, and at the same time of the unthinkable in terms of indignity. It's not possible to break with an ethical code unless one has become an ethical being. It is unknown for lions to cowardly murder lions of the same family group, or of another group, and afterwards to visit the families to offer them their condolences. It is unknown for African tigers to throw highly destructive bombs on cities of Asiatic tigers. While Homo sapiens were emerging from the basic life support structure, intervening creatively in the world, they invented language to be able to give a name to things that resulted from its intervention. Grasping, intellectuality, and being able to communicate what has been grasped. It was becoming simultaneously clear that the human existence is, in fact, a radical and profound tension between good and evil, between dignity and indignity, between decency and indecency, between the beauty and the ugliness of the world. In other words, it was becoming clear that it is impossible to humanly exist without assuming the right and the duty to opt, to decide, to struggle, to be political. All of which brings us back to the preeminence of education experience and its eminently ethical character, which in its turn leads us to the radical nature of hope. In other words, though I know that things can get worse, I also know that I am able to intervene to improve them. I like being human, being a person, precisely because it is not already given as certain, unequivocal, or irrevocable, that I am or will be correct, that I will bear witness to what is authentic, that I am or will be just, that I will respect others, that I will not lie and thereby diminish the value of others because of my envy or even anger of their questioning my presence in the world. I like being human because I know that my passing through the world is not predetermined, pre-established, that my destiny is not a given, but something that needs to be constructed, and for which I assume responsibility. I like being human because I am involved with others in making history out of possibility, not simply resigned to fatalistic stagnation. Consequently, the future is something to be constructed through trial and error, rather than an inexorable vice that determines all our actions.